Yeah. Ciao, Tiziano. Thank you for taking the time today.
Max, thank you for having me, brother. Thank you. It's a pleasure to
Yeah,
be here.
perfect. So I grew up with healers, homeopathy, kinesiology, all that good stuff. So, I have a deep admiration for people that, do the work, the real work that's important, right? To keep the families together, keep the families healthy so we can have good kids and a good society, right? So yeah, so first of all, thanks for that, and thanks for taking the time again. And yeah, maybe I just to give some context, right? Like you come from Italy, and obviously you've had a bit of a rough childhood, as I've heard you talk about many times. But if you want to just give a little tour of that time of your life, so we better understand how it brought you to that work that you do now.
Yeah, so thank you, Max, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, a pleasure to chat with a brother, particularly a man. So it's time that we do the work. Yeah, let's say that my
Yes.
upbringing was quite bumpy. I would say extremely bumpy. Everything started when I got a kick on my back and down the edge of my parents' divorce. My mom and my dad divorced when I was 7. Eventually, they stood together in and out until they were 9. Then my mom went with another man, and eventually my father became violent. There was violence at home. I didn't see my father for many years. I could see him like sporadically, but there was no father presence. And eventually, like every teenager, my mom was not enough. As I always say, like the mother is not enough. The mother is extremely important between 0 to 9, 11 years old, but then there's the need of a direction, a purpose, and leadership. It's a father role. When we don't have a father role, we seek a role around, we seek a leading role. And in my area is area that it is well known for criminality. So I seek a role model like
Mm.
every teenager, and eventually I found that in my criminal friends, which they were much older than me. I was young at the time, 13, 14, 15. Eventually they were already 25, 30, 35. So I kind of went to that path. And I understood that in order for me to be loved, I should have behaved just as they were behaving, which was violence, drug dealing, stabbing, anything that was around criminality and being respected. So I understood that respect was a form of love, which is, but then obviously over the years I understood that was something different. So I decided to take that path in order for me to be accepted, in order for me to be part of the pack, part of the group, part of the environment in which I grew up. And eventually, what kept me out of using drug, alcohol, and stuff like that was fighting. I was fighting professionally pretty young. I started to take a path for kickboxing when I was 15, 16. I became professional quite quick. I got a few important fights in my early ages. I got very well. So I I kept that path as it was another mask for me, Max, to let's say protect myself from my environment. I'm a professional fighter, so people respect me. So it was another mask. Eventually, that mask fallen when I was 21. I went into depression. A couple of years earlier, I went into jail, into trouble like that already in young ages, and from that the rest is history, because after my depression, eventually many other things happened. When I was 26, I moved to Australia, and Australia has been my Jesus Christ to get out of the cave and reincarnate into his body. That was Australia for me. I, let's say, took off the mask that I started to wear when I was 14, and eventually I started to fulfill my dream. Here I became a personal trainer. I became a personal trainer of famous, rich and famous people. And eventually in 2016, I discovered Family Constellation. Family Constellation took me out of another big trouble that I was having here financially in one of my businesses, and then I fall in love with the modality, and I completely devoted my life since that time to bring family back together, to bring love back where love is no longer, to reconnect the light eventually where the room is dark. And that's what I do in family constellation. And that's my biggest passion, my biggest purpose. And I aim, and I'm certain to make a worldwide impact with that.
Beautiful. So you said basically that Phoenix moment, right? Like when you moved over there, like how important is it to change like the environment that you're in, right? Because like I basically did the same a couple of years ago. I changed environment because I wasn't, in my at my best, where I was living, and knew everything and knew everybody, but it was hanging out with the wrong people, and then I changed, and it just helps like so much, right? Like, do you think it always has to be that drastic that we, switch location before we actually, live out of that hole that we were in?
The environment max makes the persona. Let me be more specific with that. When we live in an environment, we become part of that environment to belong to the group. And that's very much connected with my work. We create what we call a group conscience. So in order for me to belong in a place such as Savona, in a group conscience such as Savona, I need to stab people, get stabbed, punch, kick, drug deal. This is the kind of environment, the kind of group conscience which I was part of. In order for me to lose belonging to that group, I need to betray that group, and I need to face the worst of human fear, which is loneliness. That is why people remain attached to their group conscience. And when I say that, I say even about abundance, achieving success, and this and that. If they are in an environment where success is not part of it, every time they lead, every time they go towards success, eventually they sabotage themselves because they are fearful to lose belonging to their group conscience. I always say, if you go in a coffee shop and you say, hey, mate, I have a lot of bills, I'm struggling, I need to work 9 to 5 every day, 6 days a week, and this and that. You have a lot of people around. But eventually, if you go in a coffee shop and you say, hey, today I'm free, I can do whatever I want, I made 20 grand yesterday night. So you got to be alone when you say that. You're probably the 1% in that coffee shop and you don't talk to anybody. That's why people, they maintain group conscience and they prefer to sabotage themselves because they don't want to lose belonging. They don't want to face loneliness.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Like, especially also when when I've had friends where like the family structure wasn't as healthy as mine when I was a kid, right? And then you have like this abusive father or the abusive mother, and they would always defend them, right? Because they need to belong, right? Like, it doesn't matter how bad they are, how bad they treat them, you still want to belong to that family, right? Like, it's the absolute basis of our human existence in a sense, right?
Love unfolds equally for everybody, and love has many different forms. Violence is a form of love. Which form of love it is a love who cannot make it. So this is a son that goes towards his mother, and he cannot find his mother because his mother is emotionally unavailable. So this son turns his back on his mother, and he generates anger. Anger allowed this son, this boy, to move forward. Eventually, if the anger was too much, that becomes pride, and pride takes many different forms: judgment, frustration, hatred, and this and that. But that son, that young boy, becomes an adult. That means that when he's an adult, that anger can turn into violence. So that anger can turn into violence. And this is a 40 years old man that he feels his wife is going away, his wife is cheating on him with another man, and the same experience as this boy had when he was a child is basically is a memory that is replicate itself when he's a 40 years old man, and eventually the same experience becomes when you are a child, you probably stamp your feet on the floor, but when you are 40, you might raise your hand on your wife. And this is exactly the same thing. So when you are 40, you raise your hands on your wife, and that is a love that cannot make it. Although for a son, for a boy, for a child, Max, we face love in whatever we accept love in whatever form. So if I see my father violence, that is still my father. I still love him, and I'm still willing to defend him to death, because I am 50% my mother and 50% my father. So even if my mother talks, scold my father, talks talks badly about my father, I'm still willing to defend my father in front of my mother, despite I've seen my father being violent with her. Why? Because the order of love does not accept exclusion. I'm 50% my mother, 50% my father. And consciously, yes, my father is violent, but to a soul level, I'm loyal to the violent father.
Yeah, crazy stuff. Yeah, I remember my dad telling me when I was like, doing some bullshit when I was younger. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna hit you, because my dad was hitting me, and it's the last thing that I would ever do to you, right?" Like, yeah, it's heavy stuff. I think especially like violence is in the family constellation is nasty. Yeah, for sure. Wow. Okay. The love that cannot make it, right? Like, how important do you think it is, like, to actually work on that kind of stuff? Because I mean, if you don't work on it, it's not going to change, right? So it's probably yeah, it's probably crucial that everyone kind of looks into the family constellation at some point, right?
Well, a love who cannot make it is what we call an interrupted movement. An interrupted movement make your morphogenetic imprinting. Let me be more specific and explain this in detail. A son who cannot find his mother because he's been left with his auntie, with a child care because his mother is busy, she needs to go to work and this and that. That is an imprinting. It's a memory that is running through your morphogenetic imprinting. It's a loop of memory. We live in a in a loop of memory. That's what it is, the morphogenetic field. So how will this impact your life? It will impact in relationship, for example. So you might find a person, because your mother represents relationship, you might find a partner who makes you feel she abandoned you, she doesn't give you priority, she put her work, her work experience before you as a family, before you as a marriage. So this is the experience that you're going to reflect out of this abandonment wound which you have with your mother. How do we heal that? Well, we heal the emotion that separates the 2 points of attention of love, your mother and you. What is the emotion in between? Sadness. Sadness is love when cannot make it, when love cannot reunite. So your mother is on the right, you are on the left, there is sadness in between. When we are able to bring that sadness above and allow you to cry out that sadness, we allow love to flow again and to change your morphogenetic imprinting. So you're not gonna manifest this same woman that abandons you because love has found again reunion. So you're going to manifest a different reality for yourself.
So it's essentially an emotional release.
That's right. Yeah, the emotional release max is above. The soul is below. We see at the scale in such a way. There is the soul. The soul is your energetic imprinting. Above, there is your body. The emotion is an expression of the body. So above your soul, there is an emotion, and above the emotion, there is a thought. That's the mind. The mind processes the emotion, allow you to go through life and understand what that emotion is about. In order for you to don't encounter again that experience. I always say you have 3 languages. The first language is the thought. The thought is the language of the mind. The emotion is the language of the body. And the inner guidance, what you call the gut feeling, that is the language of the soul. So a good observer, a good family constellator is not somebody who read 3 million books, but is actually somebody who is very clear in observing within itself the language of the mind, the body, as well as the inner guidance. This is what makes an outstanding constellator.
Nice one. Okay, so the morphoenergetic imprint. Yeah, how would you, like, maybe just one example? How would you lift that loop? With somebody. Can you do it like that guy that you talked to recently? I forgot his name. The German guy that's doing emotional releases, because I worked with 2 of his students
David.
on me.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you also do it like remotely, or do you prefer to do it in person?
I do majorly remotely. These days everything goes online. I have clients all around the world. There's at least 3-4 month waiting list to have a booking with me. The first availability is in September, so everything is online. But how do I do it? I bring the person inside that movement, and how do I release the emotion? With words. Words are the language which the fields use to reunite. Words and movement to reunite that which was separated. So in family constellation, when I do my events, eventually I do it through the movement. I allow the person to reconnect the daughter with the father, the son with the mother, the daughter with the mother. But through online, I use words. So there are particular phrases, statements that obviously I perceive as inner guidance. As soon as I state them and I allow them to repeat, it click. Click means that the emotion rise up and they feel generally goosebump into the body. This is the morphogenetic movement, okay? They feel goosebump into the body and they start to cry. They feel release, they tears, they laugh, whatever happened. There's a big reaction from their body. Sometimes people are very shocked because it requires a simple phrase like, I die for you. I allow them to repeat, I die for you, and they start to cry crazy for 10 minutes, and eventually they feel released. Like they, how do you feel? And they like, wow, I feel I've lifted 50 kilograms baggage on my back. So yeah, it's beautiful, Max. It's my biggest passion, and I'm confident to make a worldwide impact
Amazing.
with this. Yeah.
Nice. So do you, let's say there's like some major problem between a parent and a child, do you think it makes sense to work with both at the same time, or like one and then both, or like what's your preferred method, let's say?
There are no difficult children. There are difficult system, difficult families. So when somebody comes to me and tell me my son is smoking already at 13, taking drugs and this and that, I immediately ask to them, where is his father? Or where is, tell me my son is binge eating and this and that, and I say, where is his mother? Okay, so for me it's important to work with the parents first, because if I put order within the parents as well as grandparents and a few lineage behind, generally they 2-3 lineage behind the most impactful Max, I make order within the children as well. Of course, there are dynamics in which the children, generally these above 16, if the child is suicidal, if the child has some sort of dangerous tendency, it might be required for me to see the child directly and allow him to state some phrases as well in order to release whatever entanglement they carry. Let me give you an example. If I have a son who is suicidal, he might look towards the dead brother of his father. His father lost his brother perhaps when he was little. Nobody ever spoken about this beautiful man, this uncle of him. And this boy is embodying this dynamic in order to bring awareness to this soul who is not acknowledged. So I need to obviously work with the child, whatever is a teenage, generally above 16, for him to release that entanglement and set himself free. Yeah, there are dynamics, obviously, that they can be substantial, suicidal dynamic, particularly dangerous behavior, particularly. Those are generally behavioral traits, Max, that look towards death. Look towards death means they look towards a dead person.
So, because we know like epigenetics now, and we understand that, ancestry has a big impact on us. And so you obviously also work with that. Like how far down do you think it actually goes? Is it, because, some say it's like 40 generations, others say it's like 400. Like, what do you think?
The most impactful lineage are the first 2 or 3. Children, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. If there's been a major dynamic, Max, such as suicidal, such as somebody who's been lost, that can be impactful as well as 5, 6, 7 generations. However, Ellinger taught us that we can go far behind as 11 generations. But I allow you to understand the concept out of that, because people relate 5, 6, 7 generations to 40 relatives, 50 relatives. That's much bigger, because the family is way more articulated. So you can go as far as 10,000 members that they are inside your cell, inside your bone, inside your tissue. That's why epigenetic acknowledges that we don't only carry, from a quantum physics point of view, the memory, so energetic, but we actually carry it in the bones, in the structure. We have the memory of our ancestor. And I want to give you a quick example out of that. What we consider illness is a methodology that our system has adopted in order to face what? What is a illness? A illness is a separation, a love who cannot make it. So perhaps my mother separated from her beautiful father, and she started to itch on her genital area, let's say. The genital area for a man reflect the love of a mother. So perhaps I separate from my partner and I itch in the same place. I scratch in my genital area. Because in my family system, that way of coping, that coping mechanism is ingrained in my memory. So my body knows already how to face that separation. Why? Because few lineage behind, they face that separation. So my body is a perfect machine, an intelligent machine, and the body never makes any mistake. The body knows. That's what I always say. Trust your body. Your body knows. Your body never goes against yourself. Your body supports life, supports you and supports life.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when you've had like a major pain at some point and you get out of it, then after you understand that it happened for you, right? Do you think asthma is also a coping mechanism in some sense?
Asthma is, as far as I'm aware, and in my experience, is a separation from a father figure, a shock. My father suffered asthma for something like 20, 30 years because his father died when my father was only 15. So when the son feels the separation towards his father, they go into this experience because the father, what is the father? The father is safety, protection, is the one who protect the household and the family. So there is this shock experience from the lungs. Generally speaking, Max, the lungs are always a reflection of some sort of interrupted movement with the father. So it's something about the value of the individual, because your breath is the value of your life. So the way you breathe is the way you experience your life, the value of your life. So the father is always reflecting the lung are always an expression of the father figure, and asthma definitely an expression of
Which is
separation and
crazy,
shock
right?
from the father.
Yeah, so because it gets passed down like through over generations, right? And it's that shock somebody then had, because in my family, for example, it must have been probably 4 generations before me, right? And it got passed down all the way.
Well, it's the way that your family has dealt with a separation from the man into the system, from a father
Yeah, into
figure
the
who was
war.
absent. Yeah,
They
exactly.
went to war.
There you
Yeah.
go. There you go. That's a fearful experience for a son to don't have his father protecting the household. Also, because the son, of course, looks towards the mother and unconsciously say, "Hey, if my mother died, I will die too." So the son tried to then give back to the mother because they lost already the father, and they try to give to the mother to maintain the mother healthy and alive. So there's a big parentification experience out of that. There's a lot of disorder going on from an experience like that.
Makes sense. When when the mother takes over the role of the father, when the father is not really present, what does that do to the constellation?
This is a big no-no from a constellation point of view. If the father is not present, the mother cannot take the role of the father. If the children experience the absence of their father, they know unconsciously how to deal with that. Why? Because they are born in that system, they are born in that family. So they meant to have that experience and they meant to overcome them. The system, the family gives them naturally the tools and the strength to overcome such an experience. Although, if the mother doesn't trust such an unfolding, she becomes distrustful towards the children. So the children start to don't trust life in full because their mother doesn't trust them. And in the long run, they become angry towards the mother. Why? Because she tried to take the role of the father and she cannot. If in that family there is the imprinting of a father who is absent, the children knows how to deal with that. If the mother try to cover that role, in the long run, particularly the boys, particularly the men, they become resentful towards the mother. And for the daughter, for the female, generally they place themselves by the side of their father. They become emotional support for their fathers. They become wife of their fathers unconsciously.
Mm. crazy stuff.
There's a lot of family constellation are a curious experience. What leads me, what gives me so much passion and drive is curiosity. I'm always astonished how love unfolds in whatever particular way, Max. Whatever particular way, love always finds the way to bring inclusion, balance to who is excluded, to who is forgotten. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's a binding mechanism of our life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, harmony, same thing, right? Disharmony, if you want to talk about that a bit.
Well, harmony is when the order of love unfolds with a direction. So it goes from up to down. Look at a waterfall. The water comes from above and falls down until the lake, until whatever you want. It goes up from up to down. So disharmony is when something step in between this waterfall and interrupt the flow. What does it mean? This is a son who places himself above his mother, or perhaps equally to his mother, and he takes the role of his father, or he takes the role of his grandfather. Why? Because he's unconsciously worried that his mother cannot make it. This is disharmony. So instead of allowing the flow of water, the flow of love to go down, up to down, there is something that interrupts this flow. And this is when I always say family constellation works like the electricity into an apartment, into a house. The electricity run between 4, 5, 6 rooms, but there is one room where the electricity doesn't reach. It's a dark room. Why? Because the cable has been interrupted. This is a son who places himself above the mother because he believes that his mother cannot make it. Once we place that son below his mother again, that's again harmony. So that's again life can unfold naturally, the flow of water from up to down, and everything unfolds in resonance to that. Money, relationship, success, abundance, work experience, everything that you see in life, Max, is a reflection of your system of belonging, of the way in which love unfolds within your morphogenetic imprinting. So disharmony is when love is interrupted, when love is interrupted, let's say, and harmony is when actually love can flow freely, easily, with the right order of things.
Yeah, you just said when you basically put the mother, in the right spot again, or the child. What happens if that parent dies? Does that basically reverse like the wrong setup, or does it still have to be addressed?
It doesn't matter, Max, if a person is alive or dead. Why? Because we live in a loop of memory. The memory of that person lives within our morphogenetic imprinting. So even if that person is dead since 2-3 generations, that memory is within our morphogenetic imprinting. And that's a very beautiful thing. Why? Because I can always change that memory. We live in a loop of memory that is upgraded constantly. Even you and I, at the moment, we are upgrading this loop of memory with new information, with the sharing experience, with giving and take. How love upgrade this experience? By giving and taking. Giving and taking is the first exchange in which love experience itself. I give and I take and I give. So when there is an interruption in the order of things, even this first exchange is interrupted. So people perhaps are not able to take because they are not able to take from their mother. So they only giving. See, everything is reflecting by the system of belonging. Whatever happening to your family, you're reflecting into your life. This is the beauty. This is the expiring things about family constellation. You can always change that experience. And how? Through your family system. And the family system reflects your life to the dot.
Beautiful. Yeah, you just talked about money, and I think that's probably a big topic for a lot of people. when does it basically show up in a as a problem, when in what kind of constellation, how is it connected?
Money are a reflection of your mother. Why? Subconsciously, money are a nurturing experience. They allow you to nurture. to buy food, to buy abundance experiences. And that's what is the reflection of your mother. So people who tell me, Tizi, I don't really care about money. What they're really telling me, Max, is, Tizi, I don't really care if my mother is present or not. If she's present, great. If she's not present, it doesn't matter. What? Without your mother, you wouldn't be here. Like, it's a crazy statement, but people become unaware of that concept. And the experience of money reflects the experience of your mother. For example, if you are unable to take from your mother, you are unable to take from other. So it doesn't matter if there are $3 million that they want to come your way, because morphogenetically, you don't have the tank to receive those $3 million. And somehow you sabotage that experience because you don't have that experience into your morphogenetic imprinting. This brings me to a big topic, to the concept of guilt. People who are capable to take from their mother, they are capable to face the pressure of guilt. So they're capable to receive and retain what they receive. People who are unable to take from their mother, they are unable to receive, or if they receive, they feel the inner pressure of guilt with, I give it away. Okay? So they're gonna give it away as quick as they can because they cannot face the pressure of guilt. Guilt is an experience that everybody is doing every day, but they are not aware. When somebody is offering you a coffee, Max, would you like a coffee? And I pay you a coffee, you feel an inner pressure to give me back what you have taken. Generally by 1 plus 1. So I've given you 1, you feel the compensation mechanism to give me 2. This is how love builds up relationships. People are unaware of this concept and they're not aware of their feeling when they receive something. There are people that they're capable to receive the coffee, accept it because they receive it from their mother. There are people who are not capable to receive from their mother. And as soon as you pay me a coffee, I'm going to pay you back a meal, a dinner, because I'm unable to take what I've received. I'm unable to retain what I have received. So I immediately want to give it away. This is the concept of guilt.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's for marketing. It's like reciprocity, right? Like you have to, you always feel like you have to give it back. But yeah, I've never connected it to guilt. Actually, it's very interesting. Nice.
Reciprocity
So
is no more than reciprocity, Max, is no more than maintaining balance into the universe. What does that mean? It means that everything in the universe is maintained perfectly in balance. How? Through exchanging. Exchanging, it is based on 2 primary emotions, anger and guilt. When you give too much, you perceive anger. Anger allows you to stop. Hey, you're giving too much, Tizi. And then you open up and receive. When you take too much, you feel guilty. So anger and guilt are the 2 emotions that they come above the concept of giving and taking. They're the same things under a different lens. So giving and taking, anger and guilt, same things, different lens, different density, different way of seeing them.
yeah, I was guilty of giving all the time in my 20s. I was giving way too much, and I learned it the hard way. So yeah, that changed for a couple of years now. But yeah, that was definitely, at some point, you catch yourself like, what the hell are you doing here? It's like you have to change that.
Most of the time,
So
people who give a lot, Max, they state unconsciously such a phrase: it's better you pay guilt rather than me. This is what they say unconsciously.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to listen to myself a bit, see if that was the case, because it's not the case anymore. But probably it still simmers somewhere. It's probably not fully gone. I guess never is, right?
We are a work in progress. We are a paint, a work in process. Michelangelo paint.
Definitely.
We are constantly working and upgrading, and this is the beauty. That's what keeps us alive, Otherwise, it's stuck.
Yeah.
Boring.
100%. So I have a son, and the topic of homeschooling is on the table, and I think it's the way to go, right? And you also you say it's good to keep the children home as long as possible. Like, why do you think that is it is it like to get the bond between the mother and the child up to par, to like a very strong kind of setup, or do you think it's also not to let anybody else mess, with that whole energetic structure? Like,
How
what are
old
your
is your
main reasons
son?
for that? He's 4 almost.
Between 0 to 9, the mother is the bliss. For a child,
Mm.
for a son, for a daughter, their mother is a bliss. So they constantly need the presence of the mother because they constantly need to be nurtured. They need to receive support, they need to receive love, nurturing. The mother is the blissful experience. Any form of separation with the mother can make a substantial imprinting into their life experience, and particularly with the mother in relationship, success, abundance, everything that the mother is a reflection of. After 9 years old, between 9 to 11, they have those years where they start to move from the mother to the father, and they still need the presence of the mother, but the mother start to give access to the father, because it is the mother who give access to the father. Without the mother permission, the children are conflicted. So the mother allow the son, the daughter, to move from her sphere of influence to the one of their father, for men and for women, for girl and for boys. Eventually around 13, 14, they completely move in their father's sphere of influence, and this is until 17, 18, the latest is 21. After 21, the man is completely adult, he goes on his own. The woman, same things, but she returns in the sphere of influence of her mother. This is where her adulthood sit. So for the woman is mother, father, mother. For the man is mother, father. And in the moment, Max, that the boy is moving in the sphere of influence of his father, he can start to follow his leadership and perhaps start to socialize with other men, with the rest of the environment, and his father is show him the way.
Yeah, makes sense. So what happens when the mother doesn't really respect the father, and the
Well,
children see that, for example?
many things. Most of the time, they take the side of the weaker one. The weaker one is the father if the mother doesn't respect the father. So they take the side of the weaker one. Sometimes, if this is to an extreme, they identify themselves with the weaker one. That means that a boy takes the resonance of his father, copy and paste. He becomes just like his father. For women, is mildly different. They might become silent partners of their father. So they become unconsciously the emotional support of their father. They become the caretaker of their father. They become the secret wife of their father, and this is a big trouble for them, because they grow up and they go in relationship with little boys who they give just like mothers, or they go in relationship with men who are already busy in other relationship. But the problem is that when those men leave those relationship, even this woman is going away. Why? Because she's not free. She's in a relationship with her father, so she meets somebody who is in a relationship because she is in a relationship. Big deal.
So
Big deal, brother.
what's going on? What's going on with these women that have this so-called father complex, right? That like always get like these guys that are like so much older. Does that touch on that topic that we just talked about?
Well, they look towards their father. They look for their father. Some women, they go with men who are much older because they look towards their father. Although women are emotionally more, let's say, they're more mature than us. So it's quite natural that they go with a man who is older in ages. Also because the man is the provider. So the provider, the safety experience. So of course, a woman, she seeks a man who can provide, who can support, who can allow her to fulfill what is called the project of life, motherhood. So that's a natural experience. The problem in that is when they are resolved with their father, they are brought in the relationship with their partner. This is the big deal. When they bring the unresolved with their parents on their partners, this is a big deal. So they're going through some bumpy time, bumpy experience. They need some self-development and work in order to release that and see their partners in full. Because until they place the role of their father in their partner, they cannot see their partner in full.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, just went down memory lane a bit, but yeah. What's going on with, women that kind of, jump partners like in the background, like call it cheating or not, right? Like always looking for the better option, right? Just like you just said, like who's the better provider, but like ignoring any emotions do not matter, right? Like what's going on there?
Cheating experience max come when there is disorder. For example, I'm in a relationship with my partner, but I'm fathering her. So she has already a father, and naturally she will look for a partner. So she will cheat on me because I'm giving to her like a father. So she goes with a man who can give to her equally and who she can feel equally in the exchange giving and taking. So generally speaking, the one who gives the most, the one who takes the most, for example, the woman, if she takes the most, she will be the one leaving the relationship. Why? Because guilt is flooding her soul. She cannot
Mm.
compensate what she took, so she needs to go away. And this is actually harmonious because she replaced order and she acknowledged that there is disorder in this relationship, in this partnership. Women that they go with many men, they seek what we call value into giving themselves out of these men. So if they jump from one experience of another, they seek the value that they couldn't take from their father, and they seek this sort of value by giving themselves away. So they miss the value of their father and they give themselves away easily in order to seek this value from other men. This is more of an experience that is done between 18, 22, 23, 24 years old. It's a very young, it's a very
Mm.
teenage experience to go with giving yourself away because you haven't found your value yet. And who is your value? Your value into the world is your father. Your father is giving you the value, the face that you're going to show up into the planet, into the world. For us men, he give us the value in which we take leadership purpose. For a woman, the way he looks towards her, the way he looks towards his daughter, giving her the understanding of her value. For example, if a father doesn't look emotionally involved to a daughter, this daughter will seek men who are emotionally unavailable because that's the way that her father looked towards her. And she might not feel enough because she doesn't perceive this love, this flow of love from her father. So naturally, she will give herself away in order to seek this value. She try with one man, she try with another, she try with one again, because she cannot find what she cannot find within herself. She cannot find externally what she cannot find internally. That's natural, okay? Yeah. So that's very much the dynamic of a woman, that she seeks a lot of attention. She seeks the eyes, the value of her father.
Mm. And with chaos, it's probably also the same, right? Like it's basically if you've seen chaos in childhood, you prefer it in the relationship later on as well.
Well, first of all, Max, it's important for me to state that there is nothing, there is everything rather than chaos in this universe. Everything maintains perfectly in balance. When I state that in terms of the household, when there is household where there is chaos, there is no order, those are generally children that they become emotionally shut. That means that because they have experienced so much up and down, they enter into what we call apathy. They try to don't feel, because when they felt, it was too painful for them, so they shut their heart down, so they avoid to feel. They people that they live within a crystal ball. They avoid to engage in any emotion that can lead them back to that pain they have experienced. This is very common in household where there is chaos. Children become emotionally
Mm.
unavailable, shut, apathetic. It's yeah, and it's sad because they live a life half away. They don't perceive pain. They perceive pain less because they numb, but they also perceive happiness less. These are generally children that they are led towards alcohol, towards those kind of experience that bring them back some sort of feeling. And the most common experience in this era is the absence of the father. That's why there's a lot of alcoholism, a lot of smoking experience, a lot of drug consumption. The father figure is very much the face behind all of these experiences.
How do you basically, stay sane? Because I'm sure you see a lot of like heavy stuff,
I see
probably way
everything.
heavier than what we just, yeah, than what we just talked about, like there's so much shit going on in families, like molesting children, like all that kind of stuff. Like how do you stay sane?
The capability max for me to perform what I perform to the level I perform is my capability to accept everything. I don't see drama as a drama. I don't see a suicidal experience as a drama. I see everything as an act of love. And if I bring you into the room and I show you a family constellation observation, you are able to see that everything is an act of love. My role is to reconnect where the cable has been cut. So I don't judge right or wrong, because to a soul level, there is no right or wrong. Let me give you an example. If my father, Max, was violent and my grandfather was violent, for me, in my system of belonging, to be violent is right. Why? Because violence allows me to belong. This is a big concept that I explain to everybody. To a soul level, there is no right or wrong. Right or wrong are a concept that comes way above love, sadness, anger, and pride. Right or wrong comes in a third level emotion, in pride. This is right, this is wrong. This is already a love that couldn't make it when I judge it right or wrong. Obviously, there are harmonious experience and disharmonious experience. My goal, my role is to bring disharmony or disorder into harmony and order. How do I stay sane? I accept everything for what is. I say that again. How I accept everything for what is, not for what I think it should be. Because when I say I accept everything as I think it should be, I already place layers of protection above what is, above love. If I want to bring love back, I need to tap into love, into what is. This is how I stay sane.
So you're basically capable of leaving all that stuff that you heard that day. You can cut and then basically get on with your day after that. Because yeah.
Not really. I love what I do. I love, yesterday I had an experience of a child with suicide young in ages. And when I'm able to work with the mother and allow love to flow again, for me, is enriching me. It gives me more. I leave this session that I'm enriched. I have more love. I always say my greatest gift is my capability to love always a little bit more. I can love the beautiful man, the beautiful woman, but I cannot love also the pedophile and the rapist. I can love the four of them in the same way. And many people are not capable to do that. That's why their capability to heal is limited. And that's why I feel I'm guided into this, because my capability to love is always a little bit more. I can love the rapist, I can love the pedophile, I can love the beautiful woman and the beautiful father. I can love everybody to the same extent.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, that's definitely a tough one for me. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Well, it is tough, It's everybody has different skills. Everybody has different way of living and experiencing life. And it's good to accept every form of love. I accept every form of love.
Yeah, I just read in a group that I'm in. They were talking about that topic, and then someone said, yeah, because when I'm outside and with my children, and someone would attack them, I'm incapable of showing that guy any love. And I'm like, yeah, because you have to protect, right? Like you have to protect your offspring. And in a sense, right, like where do you start there? Do you show him love? Do you intervene, right?
Max, show him love doesn't mean take them away from the consequences of their action. That's quite the opposite. That's quite the opposite of showing love. That's taking away their dignity. If somebody attack my children, I defend my children, because that's what right for me. I accept what is, and they must accept the consequence of their actions. There is there are forces into this field of existence that they maintain balance. If somebody attack my children, they generate anger in me. How? Through fear. There's a fear of losing my children, a love that cannot make it, me, and cannot reach my children. So anger generates above, and I go and protect my children. That's it. Basic experience of life. Everybody is capable to feel that. There are different, obviously, way to react to that. There's freeze, flight, fight. Everybody reacts in a different way. Although I leave the consequences of their action to everybody. If my mother abandoned me out of a church, I take my mother as she is, but I don't atone the consequences of her actions. I leave the consequences with her, and consequences what are? Guilt. Would you imagine the guilt of somebody who has killed another person? Would you imagine the guilt that they feel inside for all of their life? Instead of forgiving them, which is quite of a fairy tale experience, I forgive you. No. I leave you with the consequences of your actions. So I leave the guilt inside you, and you deal with that. And that allows me to expand my soul, as well as allow them to expand their soul out of their actions.
Yeah, I used to go to church when I was little, and then like you hear that phrase, like when you get slapped, you give the other cheek, right? And it never resonated with me, because now I base, like it just doesn't make any sense.
This is a fairy tale, Max. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that, not from me. It doesn't work like that in nature. In nature, there is an exchange, giving and taking. If I take a slap, most probably I feel the call to give a slap back. If I want to stop the compensation mechanism, maybe I give a slap that is a little bit less intense than the one that I receive. Otherwise, I slap in exactly the same intense way, and perhaps there will be a growing mechanism in negative, in evil. But that's okay, because what I took, I must give back. It's absolutely fine. Those are fairy tale experiences that they come in this era where self-development has become very much from the mind. But the mind is the servant, and the soul is the king. The soul decide. The soul is the owner of the apartment, and is the landlord. The mind is just the tenant. So the soul, there is an exchange in place, and you must respect that exchange. Why? Because if you don't respect that exchange, there is a coping mechanism that allow you to respect unconsciously. So people who don't want to face guilt and who don't want to give the slap back, eventually they will be forced to give the slap 3 times, because the pressure will be inside them from their soul to give the slap back instead of twice, 3 times.
That's a tough one then. Yeah, I mean, I go by, demon hand, Buddha heart. That's kind of how I operate. I think you should always be ready to give that slap back if needed, but you can always show love to people that deserve it, or maybe sometimes not even deserve it. But yeah, it's a big one. Yeah.
Love is even to give the slap back, is to accept the consequences of their actions. Love is a form of whatever love is. Love is everything. And if I got a slap and I feel the compensation mechanism to slap back, perhaps I should slap back. Or, depending why I took the slap. I took the slap because there is an underneath dynamic which I'm not aware of, or I'm aware of and I don't want to face. So it's always come down to what I perceive, anger or guilt. Perhaps I feel I took a slap and I'm okay with that because I have done something nasty towards that person, and I don't feel even the anger to react towards what I took, that slap.
Yeah, I just talked about that topic of suing someone when they did something wrong to you, like in a business context, right? And then they were texting and they said, okay, yeah, just focus on making that money like again, instead of going into that lawsuit. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point, but I think sometimes you just have to show these people that they did something wrong, right? Like you have to let them know. Just walking away all the time and just letting it sit there, and they will do it to another person and they will repeat that process, it's probably not always a good idea.
Well, look, Max, you are always led, you are always guided. if in your soul, if you perceive it from your soul, an experience such as I need to sue, and it feels right into your body, and right means that feels peaceful into your body. When something feels right, it's generally peaceful into your body. You feel peace, you feel in harmony with it. When something is not right, you feel agitated, anxious to pursue something. So the feeling into your body allows you to tell you this is right. I always follow my gut. I always say to people, disconnect from the servant. Perceive the gut feeling. Perceive the what's right, what your soul is telling you. Stop analyzing everything from the mind. Why? Because the mind wants to keep you safe. The soul wants to expand. The mind is downloading information from this field of existence. The soul is this field of existence. So you are in harmony with the great spirit, with the great movement. So get connected to your soul, because your soul is telling you what's right, what's wrong. Even if you have 200 people going left, but your gut feeling is telling you, Tizi, go right, because your soul knows where to go. You don't know, you might not see the next step, you might see only the next step and not the 10 ahead. But the 10 ahead are perceived still by your soul, and your gut feeling is telling you, mate, go right. Everybody's going left, no problem, you go right.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's what we basically are pushed, in school and university. We're basically completely pushed in the other direction, right? Like we aren't learning to be like listening to that, right? Like gut feeling is completely unimportant, so to speak, right? Like when we're younger, at least with me in my like I think after university I felt okay, now I have to get reconnected with that, because I was completely detached. And then just over the years it got always better, and now I'm back at it. So it took a while. Yeah.
The school system tries to ingrain you towards the mind, the analytic mind, which if I'm not wrong is the right side, is the right part of the brain. The left side of the brain is the one more creative, the one more that's connected more to your artistic side, to your soul level. And the school system is ingrained to make you use everything analytic. One plus one is two. 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 4 is 8. But to your soul, 1 plus 1 can make 12. Your soul doesn't care about maths. Your soul seek expansion. Your soul is the artistic side where you can create, where you are in resonance and in harmony with the creation itself. You are God made in human form. Call it God, call it love, call it as you like. Morphogenetic field. We can take in different way: religion, spirituality, and science. Call it as you like. But if you embrace life through this God experience that you are, because God lives within each of us, we are able to expand and seek a life of expansion rather than actually being analytic and 1 plus 1 is 2, which is a life based on fear. Your brain seeks to keep you safe, not to expand.
Let's switch topic a bit. Like, I know that you also go into these depths, like these families that have that so-called blue blood, and all these generations where they pass down the knowledge and the wealth, and they're all doing all this crazy stuff on the side, or as a main endeavor. Like, how does that work? Like, there's so much baggage over those generations, but they still always remain on top, so called, right? Like, I'm sure they have other issues because of that, but like, how does that work? Are they just like always giving that education to the next generation, or is it ingrained, like we talked about before?
I feel in this field of existence there are two poles, a positive and a negative. There is the positive pole and a negative pole, because we're experiencing dualism here. Through dualism, love experiences itself. So it's not only white and it's not only black. So there are forces that they maintain the black alive, and there are forces that they maintain the white alive. Although, by the end of it, the white is always the one winning. How? Love seeks to expand through contraction and expansion, contraction and expansion. So a war, it's a contraction which generates an expansion, a change in destiny. COVID-19, for example, it's a contraction that allows the world to change and expand. So of course there are families, there are intertwined family. It's not too much of a big topic on mine these days, but I've studied so much about particular David Icke stuff, particularly these people that they actually, David Icke particularly, who is a man in service to humanity, who study a little bit more in details the experience of these, let's say, dark forces. But since I embrace Max family constellation, I understood that there are no actually dark forces. Everything is a white force that in order for it to change and expand, they use black forces or dark forces to change the experience of the planet and the destiny. So at the end of the day, everything is love and you go back to love. There's no chance. You can get away with mass murdering, this and that, whatever, but in the end, if you look to a morphogenetic point of view, everything aims for the good. Everything always aims for the good. Some people obviously have difficulties to embrace such a concept, but for the one like me who study the morphogenetic field, they become very clearly aware that the rapist, the pedophile, the mass murdering experience always aim towards something. And the end, the target by the end of it is always love, is always the good, Max.
Yeah, that's good to hear, I think. Especially in those times. I mean, I was definitely way more pessimistic when I was younger. You know, I used to read about these topics like quite early on and got super deep and all those rabbit holes. And yeah, now I'm totally optimistic, just like you. You know, I think there's, you know, we have a good time ahead and it's all possible, right? Like I don't, you know, consume obviously those news on a daily basis, which other people do, but I think if you don't feed that mind on a, you know, on a daily basis with that kind of stuff, then yeah, it doesn't really exist that much, right?
Let me tell you this, Max. People who are against the government, people who are afraid of the boogeyman, people who are afraid of always the people that they wanna take advantage and this and that. They generally people who are in opposition with their father. Who is the boogeyman? The boogeyman is their father. It's their mother who tell them, your father is not good, your father is absent, your father is that. And the reflection of the boogeyman for a child is always their father, the absent father, the violent father, the emotionally unavailable father. The same experience for people who are extreme in conspiracy. I used to be, because they are in opposition with their father. Their father is order. Their father is order into the family. It's authority. Okay, people who are against government, against this, against that, they are against authority. They are against their father. With that said, Max, I'm not saying that people should submit to things that they are not right for them. Same things as before, gut feeling. If you feel something is not right, just don't engage with it. But by opposing it, you become part of it. Because what you are excluding, you are becoming. So if the white pole is against the black pole, becomes just like the black pole. They fight each other. That's how war are created. Israeli feel they right, Palestinian feel they right. They fight each other because they are both feeling right, and they become equally to one another. They both commit mass murdering or whatever happened, or, you know, like just out of a case, like could be France and England, Italy and Morocco, whatever. So they commit the same cruel activity because they become what they exclude.
So what's you know, what's the way to deal with that then?
Well,
If you don't exclude.
well, this is a very intelligent question and good point. So when two forces fight each other, they reach a point where they reach so much desperation that they surrender. So when Israeli attack Palestinian and they reach a point where a Palestinian family see an Israeli child out of the street and they hide the child into their household against their own soldier. Why? Because they tap into a form which is above conscience, which is above right or wrong. They tap into love. So they see a child on the street which is the opposite color and they hide that child against their own soldier. This is where life gets into another level of love, which they tap into this force, which is love. In Italy, we used to hide the Jew from our own soldier, from the Germans, because they were alive with us, but we hide the Jew because that's a form of love that goes above and connects every human being, connects Tiziano, Max, and the Israeli, the Palestinian. It doesn't matter the colors, because to a source point of view, to a source level, we are the same things. Love experiencing itself. But every experience is right, Max, even a fight, even a conflict, because it leads to something. So, again, certain forces are acting behind us, in order for those two, let's say, two colors to fight each other and reach a point where they can experience another form of love, a reunion. Love doesn't stop until it reunites itself. And there is a force that constantly tries to reunite that which has been separated.
Funny that you just brought that anecdote, because my great grandmother, she also hit the Jews in Germany. So, beautiful. But let's talk about the Zulu people a bit, because I know you went like
The Zulu
Babylon.
tribe.
Well, there, yeah. How does that like impact our journey, on this plane, that we have these types of ancestors?
Well, family constellation are rooted into group therapy. The German psychotherapist to develop family constellation as far as we have it today, he learned this concept out of the Zulu tribe. Bert Hellinger was a pastor. His life as a pastor led him to Africa, to South Africa, and he understood the group dynamic. The Zulu tribe are living way more in order that the Western culture. There is a order of things. They know how things work because they have way less mental concept and construct, and they live more simple. They live more in contact with life and nature. I give you a very simple example. Through family constellation, Max, we understood that when there is a killing, a murder experience, if the killer kills the perpetrator, the family of the perpetrator kills the victim, the killer kills the victim, commit a murder, the family of the victim takes the killer into their own family as a member of the family. Why? Because they understood that if that's not the case, somebody else down the line might come to life with schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. So one part of the brain, one part of the body leads to the perpetrator and the other one leads to the victim. So somebody down the line bring reunion to that separation by embody the two personality within. The Zulu, they knew that way beyond. When somebody killed another person, the family of the victim takes the perpetrator as member of the family to avoid the pursuit of this experience, such as schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. Most of the time, bipolar disorder are always a victim and a perpetrator that they not united. Not necessarily just out of a murder experience, but they could be other form of disharmonious experience of life where they separate and they didn't reunite. So there is a dynamic where somebody is born literally with two personality, the one of the victim and the one of the perpetrator. I'm gonna tell you one more things, Max, out of the Zulu tribe. Then I think I took you a good an hour. Then I go to have a good coffee. But the Zulu tribe, why they live more enchanted spiritually? Because they live in areas where there is more sun. The sun is the source of life, the font of life. Expand the pineal gland, allow us to enchant and enlighten the soul. That's why the Western culture, they live where there's less sun and they obviously less enlightened. But areas such as Africa, Australia, South America, wonder why people are more spiritual. I have asked and this and that, because they are in contact with the sun. The sun is the source of life. There's nothing more empowering than the sun. But not only for the skin, for the beauty, for the brain. When you go an hour under the sun, you feel much better. Everybody does. Because the sun is recharging you. It's like plugging yourself to the phone cable. That's why I always say, like, you don't need to listen to me, and I hope you won't, but you listen to your own feeling and understanding about nature. Putting a sunscreen or protecting yourself from the sun, it's madness made into a concept, because the sun is the source of life. Without the sun, there's no life. And your body has a natural reaction towards when the sun is too much on your skin, because you feel to go into the shades or you feel to jump into the water. I go into the sun here in Australia for 45 minutes an hour, then I feel to go away because it's too much. No problem. But I don't need the sunscreen. My body knows. My body has an intelligence that tells me, mate, step away from the sun, it's too much. I don't need any tools that protect me from the sun. This is not conspiracy. It's basic understanding of life. Look at the animal. They stay lie into the sun for hours and hours. Like the sun is recharging you.
True.
Area where there's no sun, people drink and drag a lot. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I spent some time in the UK, and it's definitely true, you know. But yeah, but leave the sunglasses, you know, in the drawer as well. Like it's definitely also, you know, wrong too. Yeah.
I don't protect my eyes from the sun, because my sun penetrate my eyes, my pupil, and reach the pineal gland, expand the brain, helps everything. Like the sun is beauty made into into this beautiful planet, into this beautiful essence, this beautiful force, a source of power. It's like my mom. If I need to recharge, I go to my mom. If I need to recharge, I go to the sun, and that's it. I go
Yeah,
under.
beautiful. So where can people find you if they want to hear about your work and connect with you?
Yeah. So Instagram is the biggest one, which is Tiziano_Sguerso. www.tizianosguerso.com is my website. I'm doing worldwide events these days, online, in person. We are a good team. I'm not working by myself. A lot of people send us a lot of support and compliments, but I'm not working by myself. I have a lot of people behind me that they support me in my expression. And we are a good 6-7 families that they work with this business, and I'm honored to serve. And this is what I'm here for, Max.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you for your time, man.
Brother, it was a pleasure to connect. It was a pleasure to connect, to meet you, and thank you for your patience in waiting for me.
All good. We made it work. Perfect.